and all, and Joe and Robert, really appreciate it. I'm really, really proud to be able to read tonight from two books, Friday Night Shanghai and Siddhartha On Fire, published by Swan Scythe Press. And I want to thank all the people who have zoomed in your cyber mezzanines. I really appreciate that. So I think I'll begin. I wanted to say something though tonight also about the horrendous stuff going on in the Middle East. And my heart goes out to those children of both Israel and the Palestinian children. My Baedeker. Most of you know Baedeker was the 19th century version of Lonely Planet. My Baedeker, and this sort of is a memory poem of a journey I took almost 47 years ago. The idea was to keep going. Athens to Istanbul, Ankara to Mount Ararat, where after the great flood, Noah was shipwrecked in order to recreate the world. South to Tabriz, onward to Tehran, then Mashhad for a visa to Afghanistan. Herat, Kandahar, along the Southern Ring Road, only 2 lanes and some 1,400 miles to the capital. A couple of nights in Kabul before heading into the Hindu Kush to Bamiyan, where a local boy for a few rupees took my hand as we climbed spiral time-worn stairs to the belly and ribs, past the heart of this monumental Buddha, to the precipice of his fenceless crown. At night, I slept in a tea house on a bed of jute, while outside the night air was calm as I drifted off in a haze of hashish and tobacco. I'd already moved on. Peshawar, New Delhi, then north to Nepal and Kathmandu. The night sky, an endless black dome of starlight, so bright, so close. It seemed within reach, like the idea to keep going. That was the idea. Thank you. Travel has been a really important part of my life and writing. And I'm going to try to follow the playlist here if I can do that. Not easy. Airport Blues. My passport, a scrutinized novella with its collection of faded anecdotes, rubber stamps, and expired visas. I come and go, longing for slower summer days, to be cleansed by clear light, lying naked under cypress, or strolling medieval streets at dusk, tangled in awe or poisoned by argument, or along pure mountain streams where bamboo trembles as an afterthought. Our places never disappear, only the wind without destination, like us among fellow passengers stranded in a world that won't let go. I didn't write, well, it's not true. I wrote a lot of things during the lockdown and sheltering in place, as we called it here. And this is the one pandemic poem that I think I actually liked the most and kept, and it's the opening poem in the book, Siddhartha On Fire. In the Year of the Rat, which is 2020. When the year of the rat is over and the distance is no longer palpable, even at 6 feet apart, when my silence is no longer complicit, a knee to the throat, for example, when doctors and nurses are not the last people in the room. I might feel better in the year of the ox, less a scavenger and less petrified by those ratty tails. If I could return to a bar stool where I'd sip dry martinis and RSVP to boring soirees I will miss, I might feel better when I set the traps. First poem I wrote when I repatriated to the United States and moved into our place in California. '26. Is that right? Yeah. 25? No, that's not right. Okay. A matter of faith. You can count on the crows before sunset, bickering. This is my faith. How they swirl the air like ink or smudge the trees and charcoal out of sync with their own shadows. This is my faith before nightfall. As evening skies, the color of rosé, segue to black with echoes of cruel laughter. I just love the crows. I love crows. They're just the best. My family, we would spend Chinese New Year's in Thailand, and I was reading Michel Houellebecq at the time, who was the French novelist and somewhat controversial. And I wrote a couple of poems in Thailand that I thought were good. I liked them anyway. This was, oh, sorry. This is called Adam and Sea. The Adam and Sea is just one of the best. Adam in morning. The cafe umbrellas bloom early under a harsh tropical sun. I order yellow curry and a cold beer for breakfast. It's almost noon. It isn't easy to say certain things. The clouds are like shrapnel. With so little effort, they blow themselves apart, charted by a certain slowness to declare their sovereign kingdoms. The king has died. The tourists keep coming. Children return to their sandcastles as small flags along the shoreline point us in another direction. Skin deep. This is a pantoum. I'm going to read two pantoums, and pantoums were a wonderful form. I like to write in form sometime. Sometimes when I'm stalled, I'll turn to a form, and could be a sonnet, although I'm not very good at them. And but I've gotten interested. The pantoum was a Malaysian form that was adopted by the French, and then the French just went wild with it. And John Ashbery, he's written some great pantoums. But this is a pantoum that comes from Phuket, and it's called Skin Deep. She wanted a tree. She wanted to plant a tree below her left shoulder. Her skin, the earth, the color of tea. But a history of ink is older. Below her left shoulder, she wanted a tree with her initials, blood chiseled, yet bolder, to make it official. She wanted a tree with her initials, a landmark that feels like home. Skin deep to make it official, in indigo monochrome. This place she'd always come with a pair of birds, an empty swing, the melody of a harmonium, to recall how her children sing. A pair of birds, an empty swing. She wanted to plant a tree with its own history every spring. Her skin, the earth, the color of tea. And the other pantoum from Siddhartha On Fire is for the great Serbian, poet Vasco Popa. And all of the lines from this poem are actually stolen from Charles Simich's translation of Popa's The Little Box poems, which are just marvelous. He's probably one of the greatest inventive, singular poets from Serbia in the 20th century. And all of the lines come from Popa, but I just organized them to be a pantoum, and you'll hear the repetitions. The beauty of form writing in pantoums or villanelles, and I'll read you a villanelle later, is the repetition and the playfulness and the fun that you can have with them. Pantoum for Vasco Popa. The little box gets her first teeth. Don't let sleep overtake you. Through your keyhole, gather stars, make time squirt its milk. Don't let sleep overtake you. Not even in a dream, gather stars, make time squirt its milk. And we don't keep spoiled goods, not even in a dream, which supposedly contains everything. And we don't keep spoiled goods. You'd wake up with a hole in your forehead, which supposedly contains everything, and everything else that rots inside her. You'd wake up with a hole in your forehead. You'd be better off never waking up again. And everything else that rots inside her with a belly full of mice and nails, you'd be better off never waking up again. Heaven's hat will fall out of her with a belly full of nails, a belly full of mice and nails. Earth's bones will break outside her. Heaven's hat will fall out of her. You'll take out the chalice of eternal life. Earth's bones will break outside her. The little box gets her first teeth. You'll take out the chalice of eternal life through your keyhole. I like to have conversations with artists and writers, and I find that I don't like to write so much poetry, although it always comes around to, you look at a body of work and it's kind of like making a map. You're making your own Baedeker, or you start having conversations with artists and poets and people that you have been important to your life, like Popa or a Welbeck. I'm going to read a poem called Giacometti's Nose, which is one of the older poems in Friday Night Shanghai, but it has an interesting connection to the poem I'll read next, which is about Samuel Beckett. And Beckett and Giacometti had a really interesting relationship. When Beckett wrote Waiting for Godot, he asked Giacometti to make the tree in the play. And the tree is such an important figure in the play. So I want to read these two together. I'm trying to curate this thing. So Giacometti's Nose, as I said, is one of the older pieces in the book, and but I still like the poem. And it's after a work of art by Giacometti, but I sort of took it out there. And like a saber through a box where the head hangs in it, a box without walls. His first dream of death laid out in a glass casket surrounded by dwarfs. How odd that an artist who made a life of lean, lanky figures would dream a horizontal dream. Marlene Dietrich, not Snow White, fell in love with his sculpture of a dog. It didn't last. It's me, he told Jean Genet, who called his figures the watchers of the dead. I was the dog, he said. In a notebook entitled The Death of T, Giacometti sketched the long and ugly death of his studio assistant. Alberto and his brother Diego dressed the corpse. The head had become an object, a little box, measurable, insignificant. Alberto wrote. A fly approached the black hole of his mouth and slowly disappeared inside. Years earlier, as a boy at bedside, Alberto watched an old Dutchman bang his head against a hotel wall. As it shrank, he observed, all but his nose seemed to shrivel into death, snout like an oil can, nightmares he couldn't shake, Paris, a huge spider, or venereal disease he'd catch at the Sphinx, the most famous bordello during his time. Prostitutes went hand in hand with death, was what one biographer remarked back then. His mistress, Carolyn, in Montparnasse, said, when he died, he looked like nothing more than one of his own. I never looked at the time. I know I have 25 minutes. It's okay. I got time, right? I've got a lot of poems I want to read you guys tonight. Samuel Beckett's Tree, 14. No. Samuel Beckett's Tree's in this book. What am I doing here? No, that's a New Cowboys. Did my misnumbering today. Thought I had this all right. Samuel Beckett's Tree. He wasn't finished with the tree. He was neither tourist nor traveler. He ate only cut fruit. He wasn't one for all seasons. There was great indecision about the tree, its limbs, its leaves, the girth, height, and thickness of its trunk. He wasn't finished with the tree. And there the homeless hung out, waiting for a sign, some word, or to rest beneath its bareness. He drank Calvados for the scent of late autumn afternoons, for burnt apples in a sunlit glass. Let's read some sex poems. People ask me what I write about. I write about a few things. I write about love. I write about God. I write about sex, loss, death, art, but not in that order, but not necessarily in that order. This is my, this is if W.H. Auden and I went to a S&M club together called Hellfire Club, New York, 1980. By the time we were done with it, nobody knew the difference. Pain or pleasure was nearly the same. We took the fast ride to explain our games of dark desire, a glory hole for boys in dog collars, the tether, and a fist. Another all-night toy to be broken by badass girls in heels and leather, then bliss at sunrise in a nameless light along 9th Avenue, and you, again, repaired by a stranger's kiss. And one for Robert Mapplethorpe, who was the great documentarian of some of those places in New York in the 80s. Great artist, great person. An orchid for Robert Mapplethorpe. It comes from the Greek orchis, meaning testicle. Unlike the flowers, he didn't care much for sunlight. He loved pictures of flowers more than the flowers themselves, and male genitalia, which was his other ikebana, also known a perfect specimen, the male physique, his hothouse Hercules, born in Floral Park. And no, it wasn't the blood of Nessus that killed him. Here's one more art poem, and then I'll read you a few love poems. Kind of make things a little more cozy. This is Villanelle, actually, and it's, I loved Andy Warhol. and I loved his work from the 60s particularly. And it's called My Warhol. It's your impassive gaze, the deadpan stare, where the word silence hangs above the door, there in a silver room with its only chair. Why bother arguing about the color of the air? No one really cares. It's perfect with this decor. It's your impassive gaze, the deadpan stare. What couture should a condemned man wear? Nothing special is on the tube. Life's such a bore, there in a silver room with its only chair. Tried for treason, but the evidence is spare. It isn't personal, just business and nothing more, there in a silver room with its only chair. And what is it about the style of your hair? Like a celebrity suicide or disaster worth waiting for. It's your impassive gaze, the deadpan stare. It's the look that says no one's really there and like nothing else you've ever seen before. It's your impassive gaze, the deadpan stare, there in a silver room with its only chair. Those are for Andy's fantastic paintings of the electric chair. And I think that he was so horrified by what was going to happen to the Rosenbergs, so he made some amazing paintings, the electric chair paintings. All right, some love poems. This is a poem that I spent 20 years writing this poem, and I would write it every Valentine's Day, and then I'd put it away. And I would, it was during the AIDS epidemic, at the onset of the AIDS epidemic, but I was kind of like, what am I talking about here? And I was having fun with it. And I also realized, and it went through a bunch of titles, and then I realized there's no patron saint for chocolate. So the poem's called Because There's No Patron Saint for Chocolate. Hard-headed heart, half an almond shell, but you were never one to kiss and tell, with our red ribbons and secret memos, dark or bittersweet. And what a fine day to stay in bed dreaming of fondue while going through an entire box of heart-shaped afflictions, February's bullseye with its stick pins and sometimes teardrops the size of bonbons smear a lover's lapel, like now. Your complexion's silky smooth, clear, and 70% cacao. Go ahead, eat me. I'm forever yours because you're too damn cute, and I'm so cupid stupid. This is another sort of little playful, not so playful poem, but I guess it's okay. It's also using anaphora and the repetition of you would steal. Because you stole my heart. You would steal candy from a baby. You would steal the baby too. You would steal the stars for love, then dole out the sky's stolen starlight. You would steal the hands off every clock to fling eternity in the face of God. You would steal pictures of anybody in tears. You would steal the eyes of eyewitnesses when nobody's looking, stealing kisses. You would steal that lonely pickle off the plate of a perfect stranger. You would steal the plate and the silverware. You would steal the deafening silence that still lingers in the air and pillage the bogus laughter. You would steal a moment of reflection, the ceiling mirror, and the lipstick used to scrawl another farewell note after a one-night stand. You would steal the hotel key, the stationery, the towels, the shampoo. You would steal the unpolished shoes outside those privileged doors. You would steal the dog-eared Bibles tucked devoutly inside every bedside drawer. You would steal a scruffy toupee. You would steal old love letters, diaries, whatever you could pinch, or every heart hammered to the floor. It might be your biggest heist of all. How am I doing on time? Okay, okay. Just get the hook out when you're ready. First poem, love poem to my wife in China. And it was also about learning the language, because I'd spent a long time studying it, of course, but when you get there and you live there after 14 years, you start to understand the language on a different level. Love songs in another language. Her name has the C in it and the word for sailor. It could have been a cloud, a precious stone, the chaotic skywriting of the flock. In the end, it's about the tone, to grasp any real meaning. A third character sounds like the month of June, not soft, not like those reliable summer nights the kids called from the pool, and some old guys grumbling about the evening news tapped their pipes, commiserating at the curb. Her name has the word when in it too, when love songs in a language you don't entirely understand are still love songs, and not the dumbfounded stare of her boyfriend asking where she got that tattoo, legs crisscrossed, indelicately composed, arms thrown wide, steady as she goes. Not the same when, it isn't a question, looking out at the open sea, never asking for anything. Anima Mundi. Anima Mundi. When a friend says she expects a poem on Monday morning, she means something about the deer, how they nibble the grass, as skittish as the poem my friend expects. They want the grass and to graze in the neighbor's garden. The salt lick they ignore. We try to make sense of what is timid, of what cannot be tamed, twigs snapping underfoot before an abrupt leap into a lace of sunlight. I want to read the title poem for Siddhartha On Fire, because I'll read that, and I'll also read the Shanghai poem. Siddhartha On Fire. Think of those monks who remember that first fire, witnesses to blistering heat, the searing stench of kerosene as crowds gathered and novices and nuns looked on in disbelief. Even the police, Siddhartha on fire. And those beads around his wrist signify a sentence of faith, a sentence in which refuge was a blazing mandala with sprockets tooled for this one miserable wheel, because there are no ordinary stories about suffering. And the title poem from this collection is called Friday Night Shanghai. And it's again, I'm sort of having conversations. And I was thinking about John Berryman, actually, when I wrote the poem. It was one of the first from this collection. And Berryman traveled a lot for the USIA, the United States Information Agency, in the 60s, which was kind of like a cover for the CIA or something. They were sending artists all over the globe to promote democracy. Friday Night Shanghai. On a Friday night in Shanghai, you might find John Berryman drinking down on Maoming Road. where the loneliest light in the French concession cascades across an empty dance floor. Even the mirror ball is confused and clumsy, and Berryman knew all about balls. Never mind the eternal nowhere spinning, radiant circles thrown recklessly against four walls. Never mind that the drama of beauty can't easily be defined. As the old songs grow older, going round and round in the hearts of every girl and boy on a Friday night in Shanghai. This is another conversation, my argument with John Keats, which is also dealing with that notion of beauty. You know, you might as well take them on, you know, I mean, why not, you know? The guy writes about a fucking urn, you know, give me a break. But what if Keats had it wrong? What if there's no truth in beauty? With all else to distrust in this world, why not beauty? This is for skeptics, not blubbering romantics arguing for a pathetic fallacy assigned to animate our ideas, our feelings, living or dead, for beauty. Oh, I'm sorry. This is also what's called a ghazal or ghazal. It's an Arabic form that repeats in the first two lines. It says the same word at the end of each line, and then every other line is the word beauty. But what if Keats had it wrong? What if there's no truth in beauty? With all else to distrust in this world, why not beauty? This is for skeptics, not blubbering romantics, arguing for pathetic fallacy assigned to animate our ideas, our feelings, living or dead, for beauty, by taking the eye hostage, while in some theoretical circles, it remains a mortal sin, forbidden, frivolous, the filthiest word, beauty. This is the sphere of activity in which we are permitted to remain children all our lives, said Einstein on the subject of truth and beauty. But maybe Dante was onto something other than his long parade into oblivion, that to awaken the soul into action is because of beauty. And I'm not talking about the natural world or old master paintings guarded on decrepit museum walls for our short-lived beauty. Or Dickinson, too, was right. It is not caused, it is. And wisdom seems even rarer when it comes to youth in beauty. Which brings us to Kafka, who, like Einstein, had a similar theory that anyone who retains an ability to see it never grows old. A real beauty of an idea. But go ask Emerson that without expression, the enterprise is boring. Perhaps a terrible beauty brings us to a seductive revelation, my boundless capacity for negativity. Are you listening, Mr. Keats? The truth is ugly. Beauty seems fake. Couple of more? Anybody want to hear more sex poems? Too bad. You're not getting any. Henry in Myanmar. It's a true story, actually. Henry in Myanmar. Henry overdosed in a hotel room somewhere in Rangoon. Everybody knew Henry had a problem, but assumed it was recreational. Henry liked to party, and party hard young Henry could, easily and alone. Sold his bar in Shanghai to some Kiwi, and he was gone. It's easy to imagine Henry dead, empty vials and face down in the puddle of vomit, the white powder that singed his nose. Inconclusive, said the coroner, as far as any evidence goes. His pillow, its stench. It's a really corrupt place. And during the early 2000s, people were going to Myanmar to party and to try to start new businesses. And it was kind of really insane, but poor Henry ended up on the bad side. I'm not going to get through all these, so I'm just going to read a couple more and then we're done. Robert, do you have any requests? You want me to read something from the book that you were fond of? I can't. What's that?
You've read them.
I have. Okay. All right. I want to read. I want to read Late Summer Lament, and then I'm going to read Where the Sky Meets the Sea. Late Summer Lament. This is for all the Uyghurs, all the people from Xinjiang province that I used to see every day selling amazing dried fruits and there's a word in here, Wulamuchi, which is actually the capital of that province. And these guys work their asses off every day. And, you know, they're 56 ethnic minorities in China, and the Uyghurs are, of course, one of them. First, I pass, this is also like my Frank O'Hara poem. It's I did this, I did that. First, I passed the man having a morning smoke, his cart filled with ripe melons. Then a woman with her pyramids of summer peaches. They are the sweetest this time of year. Then a basket of figs, I'm guessing from Wulamuchi, the color of fresh bruises, the color of summer wounds, I hope will heal with time. The cicadas are singing themselves to death because that's what they do at this time of year. And if just one of them was caged to your ear, you'd go deaf. You'd think you were losing your mind. I could think of nothing else. 20 million baby rattles going and sang, 20 million cries for love heard above rivers of bad traffic, above the never-ending destruction. When I spot a bucket of coal in the morning sun and how its blackness glitters. Let's go out with more light.
About bridal.
What's that?
Bridal.
Bridal, more sex poems. Yeah. Bridal would be good. We'll read that. It's a strange, another strange kind of event. I still want to read I should also read the other one that Ilya liked a lot. I have these weird, playful word poems, but Bridal, I thought about the girl, just called Bridal. I thought about the girl who said she lived at the track. She smelled of horses with her dirty blonde demeanor and itinerant lilt. She drove an old Sunbeam. She'd never tell me where she really lived. We kissed a lot, like we meant it. A touch as supple as suede, the color of chestnuts. Some days she'd come by in joppers. She'd leave cryptic notes, skittish like a jockey at the starting gate. Every envelope inscribed, human thought, the most precious freight. I'd take the bit in my mouth, then let her saddle me. Unfortunately, we never got to that part. But she did. She drove a Sunbeam and would never tell me where she actually lived. She worked at the track. Here's this is called Notes Prior to Departure. Okay, gonna stop. Here's a red envelope full of money for good luck. I'm sorry it's not enough. Here's the key to the mailbox. It's the one like a silly Swiss chalet, though it only brings the bills or boring news. No mysteries there. Help yourself to the fridge. There, you might find mysteries. Don't drink all my liquor. I'd recommend a modest glass of bourbon after lunch and a nap. The couch is too small, but I pretend to be a baby. Pray for the family. If you need something to love, spray and water the plants. Some say poems of departure are no longer relevant, not since the Chinese left to roam far beyond the mountains. Walking deep into a mist, they slept above the clouds. And I'm going to leave you guys with this poem, which is something we could all hope for. Where the sky meets the sea. How many times have you imagined a room with whitewashed walls, a floor of smooth stone, cool to bare feet, a room that is sparse, only a table and chair. There is a solitary window looking out to where the sky meets the sea, cloudless and blue. There is nothing else. And how many times has an emptiness such as this filled you with a sense of calm, too good to be true, as the setting sun cuts water like an old knife, its amber light casting its spell, and you, unafraid to say the word, sparkle. Thank you.